First story. I warn you that the story I am about to tell is something incredible and creepy. This happened to me and my friends on that island, which will forever remain in my memory as a place where the worst nightmares came true. It all started when we decided to go on a trip to an abandoned island that only the bravest have heard of. We were like that, friends who considered ourselves fearless. There were 6 of us: me, Michael, Lisa, Tom, Amy, and Chris. We rented a boat and set off into the unknown, full of joy and excitement. The island turned out to be beautiful and secluded. We set up camp on the beach, enjoying nature and each other's company. But already on the second day, strange events began. Amy claimed that she saw some kind of shadow in the forest, and Tom heard strange rustling noises at night. The first night after sunset, the disappearances began. Amy was the first to disappear. We all went looking for her, shouting her name, but all we received was a mysterious message written in the sand: "Find me in the labyrinth." The rest of the messages were no less gloomy. The next day, we decided to go deep into the island, where, according to rumors, there was an ancient forest with a labyrinth. It was as if something was pulling us in that direction, although we felt impending danger. The forest was thick and ominous, and within a few hours they lost Tom. Tom left a message on the tree: "I'll be back soon. Don't go any further." But we didn't listen to his advice. Time passed, and there were fewer and fewer of us. The labyrinth turned out to be a scary place in which the trees changed their shapes, and it seemed to us that someone was watching us. Lisa and Chris disappeared, leaving a message on the old trunk: "Be careful, there is a trail." We continued to move, although fear gripped our hearts more and more. With every step of our journey, it became clearer that this island carried something sinister and inexplicable. Finally, it was just me and Michael. We continued to look for our friends and try to unravel the mysterious messages. They seemed to be leading us to something, but we didn't know what it was. The last message we found was written in blood on a rock: "This is where you belong." We realized that we were destined to join our friends in this ominous place. And now, I sit here on this island, surrounded by a dark forest and mysterious messages, knowing that my friends will never return. And I'm scared to even think what awaits me ahead, and where the terrible messages are leading me and Michael. Perhaps there is a dark secret waiting for us that cannot be revealed. What happened to our group, and what forces are hiding on this island, remains a mystery. But one thing I know for sure is that this island will forever remain in my nightmares, and I will never again forget the fear that gripped me on this damned island map. 10 years after that terrible story, when my friends disappeared on an ominous island, I decided to return there. My dreams still tormented me, and I could not let go of that mysterious story. All this time, I felt that this island held the answers to many unanswered questions. I was willing to take risks, despite the terrible night I had experienced. The island looked the same as before, beautiful and secluded. But this time I arrived prepared, equipped to explore, and more determined to unravel the mystery of this place. The first thing I discovered on the beach were traces of the messages that we found 10 years ago. They seemed even more mysterious to me now. I started collecting all these notes, trying to find some logic in their sequence and content. As I explored the island, I discovered a long-forgotten house deep in the forest that seemed to be left behind by someone or something. This house made me delve into the past and try to understand what happened here many years ago. Inside the house, I found an old diary that belonged to some stranger. It contained notes about strange phenomena on the island, people disappearing, and how he felt that something mysterious and sinister was controlling his mind. The further I explored the island, the more mysteries revealed themselves to me. I found an ancient labyrinth deep in the forest, which seemed to be a real network of time and space. In it, I felt an impenetrable wall between the world of reality and something else, something sinister. But suddenly, at the very edge of the labyrinth, I discovered a body. The body that belonged to Amy, one of my missing friends. Her gaze was frozen with fear, and her face represented the horror she experienced in the last moments of her life. Under her body, I found another message written in blood. "Leave this island. Time will destroy everyone." Having difficulty reading this message, I felt that something was approaching me from the darkness of the labyrinth, something that I could not see, but which felt closer and closer. I ran away from the island that night, leaving behind a nightmare that I will never forget. I could not reveal all the secrets of this island, but I know one thing. Things happen there that are beyond our understanding, and I will never be able to return there again. This island will forever remain a place where our fears became reality, and where an ominous secret continues to consume all living things. Second story. I have always considered myself a skeptic, not swayed by tales of other worlds and supernatural phenomena. But the story that I will tell you made me reconsider my beliefs, and again believe in the secrets that are hidden in this world. It all started with a couple of friends, Max and Anna, who one fine summer day decided to go hiking in the city forest. This forest was known for its beauty and mystery, but this only added to its appeal for adventure-minded couples. We, their friends, went with them, deciding to spend the night in tents in order to return home the next morning. The first hours in the forest were fun. We walked among the trees, listened to the rustling of leaves, and sang songs around the fire. But as night fell, something began to change. At first, these seemed like minor details. We were disorientated and couldn't find our camp, but it soon became obvious that something was wrong. We continued to walk forward, hoping to find a way out of the forest, but time passed, and we were still wandering among the trees. All attempts to use GPS and mobile phones were unsuccessful. The signals were disappearing, and we didn't have a single bar to receive. Hours, days, and weeks passed, but we still could not find a way out. Our food and water supplies ran out, and we were forced to subsist on berries and tree bark. There was constant darkness in the forest, and even during the day the sky seemed covered with a dense blanket of clouds. Every day our hope for salvation faded, and our fear grew. We began to hear strange sounds. Something inhuman was whispering and watching us from the darkness. The nights became nightmares, and we saw shadows moving among the trees. We have lost track of time and space. The forest began to change before our eyes. The trees thickened and dissolved into indistinguishable darkness. We were no longer sure where we were, and even the light of the torches could not penetrate the darkness. And then one day, when we had almost lost hope, we heard a whisper. It was the whisper of Anna and Max. They were in front of us, but we could not see them. They talked about the infinity of this forest, about how it absorbs those who enter it and does not let go. We realized that they had long since died, but their souls remained here, like ghosts, caught up in the endless darkness of this damned place. Now we ourselves have become part of this terrible story. We have become ghosts caught up in this endless forest, where there is no beginning or end. The forest has become our prison and grave, and we will never be able to leave it. The forest has become our eternal hell, where we wander among the trees, lost in time and space, powerless, and endlessly alone. Over time, our physical strength and mental stability began to fade. We have ceased to distinguish between day and night. The ability to feel heat and cold has disappeared. All that remained was the incessant darkness and eerie noises that followed us in our endless flight. We continued to try to find a way out, although we had long realized that it was useless. We left messages for future explorers, but we doubted they would ever find them. Time became a lost concept, and we began to doubt our own reality. Doubt, fear, and paranoia began to emerge among us. We began to see enemies where there were none, and to fight for the last drops of water and scraps of food. Our friendship and solidarity crumbled under the influence of hopelessness and fear. However, just when it seemed that we were approaching the end of our strength and intelligence, something unexpected happened. We heard a faint, almost inaudible voice that found its way through the darkness. These were searchers, other adventurers who, like us, were lost in this damned forest. They came to us, but it seems like they have been here forever. They told us that they had been looking for us for many years, and that there was really something strange and supernatural in this forest. They claimed that they had a plan to get out of here, but it would require sacrifices. Now we hope for salvation again, but the price we have to pay may be too high. This forest remains a mystery, and we still don't know how it became so vast and eerie. But we are ready to do everything to get out of this nightmare and return to a world where there is no infinity and no darkness that consumes souls. Third story. Every speleologist knew that this adventure had its share of risks. We were a group of experienced explorers, accustomed to the darkness, cave passages, and unpredictability of the underground world. However, the cave we went to that day was something incredibly strange and mystical, and we could not even imagine what a nightmare awaited us in its depths. Everything started fine. We gathered at the camp in front of the cave entrance, checked our equipment, and checked our supplies. The weather was clear, and there were no signs of trouble. We went down, passing through narrow corridors and descents, and soon found ourselves in the deepest part of the cave, where we had never been before. Our flashlights barely penetrated the darkness, and only the noise of our breathing and footsteps drove away the silence. But as we moved deeper, the walls of the cave began to change. They became covered with mysterious drawings, images of creatures that looked like something out of mythology or a nightmare. I felt that something was wrong here, but our colleagues assured me that these were just strange cave paintings and nothing more. We continued to move forward, and our flashlights illuminated more and more mystical images. Then, however, I heard a noise. It was some kind of slurping sound, but it was much closer than the sound from our group could have been. We stopped and listened intently. The slurping sound became louder, and I felt my skin crawl. We turned on our flashlights and carefully moved towards the source of the sound. The closer we got, the clearer it became that this was something alive, and it was very close. And so, when we crossed the bend, creatures stood in front of us that terrified us. They were ugly and disgusting, covered in slime and living in this dark hole. Their eyes sparkled in the darkness, and their mouths were full of sharp teeth. They stood before us, slurping and sticking out their tongues, and we realized that they were our host in this nightmarish underground entity. We stood paralyzed with horror, not knowing how to respond to this threat from the depths of the earth. Our flashlights cast a blinding light on their vital bodies, but we were too close to run and too close to fight. Our future in this dark, nightmarish cave was in jeopardy, and we cursed the curiosity that had brought us here. We stood there, transfixed, aware that death awaited us in this underground cave. The creatures stood in front of us, chomping and emitting strange sounds, but they did not accept our attack. We remained silent, hoping that maybe they would leave or ignore us. However, the longer we stayed in the cave, the more aggressive these creatures became. They began to approach us, and fear overwhelmed us with every step they took. We decided we needed to take action before it was too late. One of our speleologists, Jake, decisively took a torch and slowly approached one of the creatures while threatening it with fire. The mysterious creatures began to scream and retreated back, but at the same time they became more aggressive. One of them tried to jump at Jake, but he was faster and managed to repel the attack, setting him on fire with a torch. The battle has begun. We waved torches, trying to protect ourselves from the attacks of these creatures. But we had to pay a high price. One of our comrades was wounded, and his screams rang out in the cave, filling it with terror. We moved back, fighting for our lives. And finally, after endlessly long minutes, we managed to get out of the cave. We carried our wounded friend with us, and the terrible memories of what we saw in the depths will be with us forever. Once in the fresh air, we breathed with relief, realizing that we had escaped from the nightmarish underground world. Our experience in that cave left an incredible mark on us, and we never wanted to return to those dark depths. But our wounds, both physical and mental, were deep, and they will hurt until the end of our days. Fourth story. My life was ordinary, and I never believed in supernatural phenomena. But one day, when I encounter a mysterious phone call, everything changes. This call happened one cold evening when I was alone at home. My phone rang, and an unknown number was displayed on the screen. I picked up the phone, feeling slightly uneasy. "Hi," I said. In response, I heard a whisper that seemed distorted and distant. I put the phone closer to my ear to see something more clearly. At that moment, it seemed to me that I heard the words, "Help, save me." A feeling of cold and horror ran through me. The voice sounded weak and hysterical, as if its owner was in the deepest and most hopeless trouble. "Who are you? Where are you?" I asked, trying to solve the mystery of this call. But in response, I heard only a groan and noise, as if someone was struggling with something terrible. My anxiety grew with every second. "Please tell me how to help you," I shouted into the phone. But the answer is only silence. The call ended and the screen displayed the message, "Connection completed." I tried to call back to that number, but the phone buzzed for a long time and then gave a message that the number did not exist. I dialed this number again and again, but the result remained the same. Rising from my seat, I began to think about what to do next. Who was this man, and what trouble befell him? I couldn't ignore this challenge. I had to start my own investigation and try to solve the mystery of this mysterious phone call. Deciding to start my own investigation, I began searching for information about that mysterious phone number. At first, I tried to just look it up on the internet, but to no avail. The number did not belong to any well-known company or individual. Then I decided to turn to friends and acquaintances, asking them if anyone had information about that number. It turned out that some of them received the same strange calls, but they also could not find any information about the number. My fear and anxiety grew every day. I felt that this mysterious call was somehow connected to me, and that I must solve its mystery in order to help the person who called. However, the nights became scary for me. I began to have nightmares where the person from the call was imprisoned and screaming for help. It became my obsession, and I hardly slept. One day, as I was waking up from a new nightmare, I heard a sound from my phone. He called again. I frantically grabbed the phone and brought it to my ear. "Help, they will come for me. Soon," the voice whispered again, but it sounded weaker, as if the person was losing strength. "Where are you? Who's coming? Tell me more," I shouted into the phone, hoping to get at least some information. But again, the call ended, and my anxiety only increased. I understood that there was very little time left, and I had to unravel this mysterious story before the terrible events that my interlocutor spoke about happened. I had to unravel the secret of this mysterious phone call. Otherwise, something terrible would happen.